Well, hello and good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's enjoying their jolly good times and the holidays of Christmas and all those fancy doodads and holiday nonsense, you know. You're watching the Bodacious Rant with Burn and Rye, as you might say.
Yes,
But how are you
indubitably.
today, good sir? Yes, indubitably, yes. How are you, sir?
Yes, merry tidings, in the seasons of the Frosties and the Rudolphs, as it were.
Oh, yes, that's very astute, young lad. You know, I appreciate your observations and all that stuff. And forgive me for doing this ridiculous British accent, this horrid accent. I'm just going to switch back to American. That's who I am. Yeah, I hope everybody's doing good. We're going to be talking about a movie that took me by surprise, I think, the most this year. I know there have been some movies, especially like Godzilla Minus One, where I had no intention of enjoying it. This is a movie I almost didn't. I didn't want to see. Burn definitely kind of forced my hand to go watch it. Yes, especially because I had to drive to stupid Century City for it, which was not fun in LA.
But
no matter what time
Century City is great. That's where Ken learned what manhood is.
I'm sorry, I love AMC up there. I do not like going to it. I don't know how fancy that area is. That mall sucks. It is too crowded and just not a fan. I was like, but again, it is the holiday season, so I will give that the benefit of it. But we're not talking about Century City and all that stuff. No disrespect to AMC over there. You guys are awesome. But we are talking about one of the, definitely I think an award contender for the upcoming Oscars and Golden Globes, which is the newest movie starring Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe, Margaret Qualley, and that is Poor Things. So that's the kind of like artsy movie. I'm sure people have seen posters or ads for it here and there where it's definitely an artsy movie. But anyways, we'll get into that in just a second. This is a non-spoiler review, so please do not forget to give us a like, ring the bell, and of course subscribe. We appreciate you guys, and again, just want to thank everyone. I mean, I know it's not New Year's yet, but just want to thank everyone for all the support and the views this last year. We want to keep it going, and we have fun doing it, and I hope you guys enjoy watching us. So if you don't, maybe don't comment on it, but if you do, great. We love to know. Anyways, so I would say this movie is a perfect blend of, like, if it's like Frankenstein decided to meet, shit, I can't think of an art house movie like that. Yeah, I don't know. It's basically just an artsy feminist version of Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster, but from the point of view of the monster, where Emma Stone, she is Bella Baxter. She's brought back to life by Willem Dafoe, who is a scientist, disfigured by, other means. I don't want to spoil it too much for you guys. And she goes on an adventure with the devious Mark Ruffalo character. But in doing so, she kind of learns about the world and explores herself and what it means to be a woman in that age. Because it's almost like, I guess the time period is, while the clothes and stuff look very like classic and almost like Renaissance-ish, it's very much like a steampunk story.
Yeah.
It's I guess the two words I would use that would describe this movie the most are surreal and interesting. And that interesting gets thrown a lot in this movie. That's the only spoiler I'm going to say. Before I keep going, Bern, what did you think of this movie?
Yeah, so I mean, like, this is another Yorgos Lanthimos movie, and for anybody who is familiar with that, kind of has an idea of what they're kind of getting into. Is, as you mentioned, pretty artsy, very out there, very weird and wacky. His last movie, The Favorite, was pretty good. It was one of those that started the whole Olivia Colman renaissance, where she got her Oscar from that, and that also did star Emma Stone in a supporting role. So that was their first time working together. So coming into this one, I kind of knew, like, I had an idea of like what I was getting myself into. This is going to be a really wild ride, but it's going to be a fun one nonetheless, because I've enjoyed a lot of his movies, in The Favorite in particular. So coming into it, seeing the trailers, hearing the buzz from the festival circus of how good this movie was, I was very intrigued. So I was very much looking forward to this one. And yeah, I mean, it didn't disappoint. It's pretty much basically what you said. There's the Frankenstein monster story with through a feminist lens, from the perspective of the monster, where we get to follow this Bella Baxter character as it's basically her coming of age, her discovering the world and seeing, this weird version of reality. Like you said, it's kind of like early 1900s, late 1800s, like sort of exists in its own space. They say, this is London, this is Lisbon, this is all these places, but it doesn't look anything like, what we're used to. It's very much its own like storybook world. And it just kind of plays out like a fantasy, like a fantasy story, like an adventure story, coming of age, this character discovering them, both the world and themselves. So it was a really fun time. Definitely caught me off guard with how adult it was. I wasn't expecting it to be quite that adult in terms of sexuality and violence. But just it gave it this sort of characteristic where none of those things felt gratuitous. It felt like it was always informing the character, and I just enjoyed following this character of Bella, played incredibly by Emma Stone. It just seeing this weird world through her own weird lens. It was a fun time, man, and I really enjoyed myself watching this movie.
Again, call me ignorant, call me uncultured, call me what you will. I'm not a fan of these like kind of period piece artsy fartsy movies. The only few exceptions were like The Witch, if you count that, because that's more of like a horror movie. Occasionally I don't mind like period pieces in those movies, because it's just one of those things. I have a particular taste, and again, call it uncultured, call it what you will. But so I went into this movie thinking like, oh god, I'm gonna watch some artsy garbage where it's just over dramatic acting, ridiculous costumes and stuff. But yeah, but it all works so flippin' well in this movie. It is supposed to be weird. It's almost like Tim Burton decided to be like an Academy Award winning like director. Like he's like, this is gonna be my art piece right here. Because that's the vibes I got from it. It was just very interesting like that. And yeah, Emma Stone killed it, man. Like she is grown into such like a heavy hitter of an actor. It's like watching, I was like, man, I'm impressed. She does this so well and so convincing in it. You really get sucked into the world as soon as she's on screen. Mark Ruffalo is just straight up hilarious.
Yes.
I guess if I had to say like how good of a character he was, it was like what Chris Evans did in Knives Out. That's what Mark Ruffalo did in this. Just like ridiculous, stupid, evil, but overall hilarious. And it was very interesting for a movie that's almost 2.5 hours long. It kept my attention very well, which I was very surprised on. I was just surprised by how great it was. It's a very simple, like the sets are pretty simple for the most part, nothing too extravagant. But it works. I can't put my finger on why I like this movie so much. I guess it's the story and just kind of flipping it on its ear that, it's a feminist story, but I think for the best way, because she's not just completely, it's not one of those stories like, oh, it's all about the woman and getting what she wants. It's like, no, it's about learning what it's like to live in the world as a woman and kind of navigating that, because she gets a bit of every point of view from everyone else in this, especially one scene in particular I really liked with Jared Carmichael. I thought that was a big character moment in that movie, and I can't praise this enough. So with all that being said, this is another one I'm very surprised to give. Actually, somebody asked me, would I rather see that, like, is this better than Godzilla -1? And I'm like, two completely different movies.
Yeah.
Rewatchability, I'd probably watch Godzilla -1 again because I do want to see it again. But I'm going to give this movie a 5 out of 5 because it's easily my favorite Emma Stone character ever. It's almost like very much like Easy A and Frankenstein met, and this is the product of it. That's actually that's the way I would definitely put it. So if you do like Frankenstein, you loved Emma Stone and Easy A, this is a good movie to watch. And yeah, it's very limited though. Like Byrne, I believe, saw it at Burbank. I had to go to Century City. So if you don't feel like driving to either one of those places or don't live near it, I'm sure it'll be on streaming eventually, especially coming the Academy season.
Yeah,
But if you can't go see it in theaters,
it's actually getting
it.
more screens are coming in this week and next week as well. So it should be more widely available. How wide, I'm not so sure, but yeah, it should be coming to more theaters than the limited options that we had to go check that out.
Seriously, yeah, that sucked. But Bern, what is your ranting on this movie?
Yeah, man. I mean, this movie is is the product of basically like a singular vision. I can't point to any other movie out there that is like this, especially this year. This very much, this is very much of a one of a kind movie that's come out, and Yorgos has a incredible creative eye. As you mentioned, the set design was really interesting. It's just everything is so informative. The cinematography, the sets, the costumes, the acting, it all works in service of this movie. And even in how weird it gets, it all just fits right in. So it, like I mentioned, it's just a delightful time, a lot of fun. Emma Stone gives probably the performance of her career. I would not be surprised if she walks home with, some big awards, and this movie walking away with a few. We're smack dab in the middle of Oscar season, so this movie has definitely come in as a heavyweight late into the game. I know, we're talking about Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon and Barbie and a lot of great ones, but this one is really one of those dark horses. It's the weird one of the group. Where I can see it taking home a lot of gold, and deservedly so. And like I mentioned, for all those reasons, I really enjoyed this movie. I'm also going to give this one a 5 out of 5. It's one of those that I want to recommend to people, but I just don't know how they're going to walk away from it. But I know I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is, as much as I love this movie, I definitely can't recommend it to everyone. 'Cause I'm sure it'll trigger certain personalities, and it's maybe too artsy for some people. But I feel like if I could get through it, almost anyone should be able to get through it, because it's pretty artsy, but it was enjoyable. But yeah, so I guess if you're sensitive and don't like feminism, this is not going to be the movie for you.
No, there's a lot of Mark Wahlbergs out there. I mean, not Wahlbergs, Mark Ruffalo's character, Duncans. There's a lot of Duncans out there.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I was gonna be like, why are we throwing Mark Wahlberg under the bus?
Throw him into
champion.
Yeah. No. I like Mark Wahlberg.
But for those of you who have seen this movie, or even if you're thinking about watching it, what are your thoughts on it? We'd love to get your comments up there. Keep the conversation going. But until next time, we also Wonka is coming out, so keep an eye out for that review. And yeah, we're nearing 2020, the end of 2023, and going into 2024, which it's gonna be a stacked year, both series, movies. I know we've been saying that a lot, but like at least the last couple of years, I feel like every year we say, "Oh, next year's gonna be great." It's like, yeah, next year's gonna be stacked, or at least the first half of the year. So, until next time, everyone, stay bodacious and keep on ranting for us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch you on the next one.